during this holiday time, because there's so much writing on making it a special time. And I think actually the first thing I will talk about is the last sentence of this mom's question. I just need advice on what we can do to help support them and make their time with us anxiety free. So that's setting an awful high bar.
Welcome to Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we talk about how to manage those tricky emotions that show up in all families. Serious stuff without being too serious. I'm your co-host, Robin, and I'm Lynn's sister-in-law, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, speaker, mom, and author, and I've been a therapist for over 30 years. Parenting can be a flusterclux, and I'm here to help you find your way. And I'll even tell you what to do and what to say.
Hey, Lynn, let's recast, I think, a very important episode from Christmas 2020. It was a pretty tough year, but for a lot of families, every year can be tough, and you answer some really challenging listener questions. My husband and his ex-wife have a parenting plan that outlines schedules around the holidays that are all very clear. The problem is that his ex-wife constantly interferes in all that we do when we have the children. She sends him text messages every day dictating what he can or cannot do, and has already been told by the parenting coordinator to not interfere with his time. She makes a normal visitation weekend difficult, but longer periods of time are extremely stressful. My husband's boys are 9 and 12, and signs of anxiety they show are nail biting in the oldest to the point of bleeding, and in his youngest, puking before their mom picks them up. Their youngest will also complain of leg pain after he gets off the phone with his mom. They will both wake up in the middle of the night with awful night terrors as well. Their mom will call in the evening to say goodnight, but will ask them to close the door and will basically interrogate them to find out what they've been doing with us. They are both wonderful boys, and my 11-year-old son gets along with them fabulously. I just need advice on what we can do to help support them and make their time with us anxiety-free.
This is the challenge of not only blended families in general, but during this holiday time, because there's so much writing on making it a special time. And I think actually the first thing I will talk about is the last sentence of this mom's question. I just need advice on what we can do to help support them and make their time with us anxiety free. So that's setting an awful high bar, that they're not going to have any anxiety, that if this is a difficult relationship between their mom and their dad, if there are really cleared out plans, if there's a parenting coordinator involved, it doesn't sound like that this has been smooth in a lot of ways. And so now thinking that during the holidays, you're going to make it anxiety free, that's probably too much to expect. But here's what I really do think that you can think about. The holidays, we want to be a special time. And we want to let kids enjoy it. We want to be able to see it through their eyes and let them have all the fun and all the excitement and all the closeness that we all imagine during the holidays. Your job and their dad's job during this time is to really make sure that you are paying attention to the way these boys feel in terms of divided loyalty. Now, this is something that can happen because families do it very blatantly, right? So there are some families where the parents really talk about taking sides with the kids, and they really make that clear that that's their intent and that that's their desire for their children to pick one parent over the other. But I think probably what's more likely happening in this situation is that it hasn't been something that's been purposely stated, but it's something that the kids can pick up on. And most kids can pick up on this because their parents got divorced and they've had to make a lot of adjustments and they've had to make a lot of changes. So I would be really careful in recognizing that even if you're doing everything right, and even if their mom is doing everything wrong, which I doubt that it's that clear cut, actually, because I've been a therapist for 30 years. Even if it's that clear cut, they still are feeling torn. And the stress that they feel, and I talk to a lot of parents about this, the stress that a child feels when they're making a transition may not have to do with where they're going or who they're leaving, but the fact that they're going and that they're leaving. So it's not that they're upset that they have to go with their mom, or they're upset that they have to say goodbye to their dad. They're upset because they have to leave and they have to go and they have to make these transitions back and forth. being able to talk to kids, sometimes in a direct way and sometimes just making sure that the message is given, it's sort of in the ether, is that transitions are hard and that their mom loves them and their dad loves them and you love them and their stepbrother loves them. But it really is asking a lot of a 9 and a 12-year-old to be able to navigate this in a really smooth way. So put the emphasis not on what mom is doing, but really validating for these boys that this is really hard emotionally going back and forth. And that it doesn't seem as clear cut as you'd like it to be, right? So that there's clear instructions and there's clear limits. And when she has them, she has them. And when dad has them, dad has them. For them, it's much more combined for them. It's much more complicated for them. So this idea of loyalty, this idea of needing to choose, and this idea of needing to separate are all things that really contribute to kids' emotional distress or anxiety or worry during this time. So the message you want to give to them is whether you're going somewhere or coming back from somewhere, whether you're saying hello or goodbye, all the hellos and all of the goodbyes are emotionally loaded. And so we know that there's going to be some strong feelings. And I'm talking about hellos and goodbyes on the phone. I'm talking about hellos and goodbyes in anticipation of pickups, in anticipation of leaving, in anticipation of going, in anticipation of coming back. All of that stuff is complicated. Don't make it about who's doing the bad things and who's doing the good things. Be really, really careful about your language and recognize too that kids in these types of situations listen very closely to what the grown-ups are saying. Even when you think they're not listening, their ears are really tuned in to what's going on between their parents. So that would be the advice that I would give you. Really validate it, really make room for it, and make sure that you and your husband are not having conversations that they are possibly hearing. They've clearly been through a lot with this. It doesn't sound like it's a very good relationship between these exes. That's enormously stressful for kids. Make sure that they're doing everything you can to make these transitions as smooth as possible. It's the hellos and the goodbyes that are causing them such distress. That's a normal part of what happens when you're put between two parents that love you but don't love each other. It's really about making sure the adults are stepping up their game and really paying attention to the messages you're giving. You can't do anything about the messages that their mom is giving, of course, but really you and your husband really pay attention to that and really validate it so that they don't have to feel like they have to act a certain way or not say certain things or not do certain things when they're in one house or the other.
If not necessarily with this family situation, but when we're talking about blended families and especially divorces that were not so smooth, the mom might not have partnered with somebody else, right? The mom is alone while the kids are there. It's not about the content the mom feeds. The mom is still the mom, just like the process still the process. If the stepmom was like, you know what, we're going to bake a lot of cookies and I want you to take these home to your mom as a nice thing. Even if you just feel nothing towards that woman, if she feels acknowledged and valued and has modeled that with her kids, if a stepmom did stuff like that, could you sort of turn it around a little bit?
Yeah, I think that showing your children that there is a connection, that you acknowledge the mom, that you are, well, what you're doing is you're saying to these boys, I know you love your mommy.
Right. And your mother's important.
And your mother isn't, yes.
And she's part of our family,
yes,
and your family, even though she's not here. I just feel like those kind of actions are very powerful. Yeah. I was a child of divorced parents, and I did get shuffled back and forth. This is taking me back to, as you were saying this, I feel like I was like a little 4-year-old again.
Yeah. You
feel like as a child, it's your job to show loyalty to whoever you're with in that moment.
Right.
Probably a survival instinct.
Yeah. And I think, the word loyalty is really the powerful word in this, because children should not be asked to show more loyalty to one parent or another. But you're exactly right, is that they'll be loyal to whoever they're with. One of the things that happens too a lot of times in blended families is that when a child is with one parent, they'll throw the other parent under the bus. And then when they go back to the other house, they'll throw the other parent under the bus because they're just trying to stay connected to the parent that they're with. And not only that, but they have a lot of conflicting feelings about the way the parents are dealing with each other. Maybe if there's a new relationship, there's just so much going on for these kids internally. That's a wonderful idea, Robin, is to say, the stepmom says, I am going to help you stay connected to your mom in a healthy way while you're with us. Mom, you think about this, the stepmom, if you think about this, I'm going to help you stay connected to your mom in a healthy way. What would that look like for you, stepmom? What would you have to do to pull that off? That gesture and that language can really help kids feel okay with the conflict that they feel inside. I love that idea. This is what happens, right? Think like the mom calls and then they close the door and the mom interrogates them. It's all sort of like, which camp are you in? How do we blend it so that they can be with their mom and dad positively and healthfully when they're not with their mom or when they're not with their dad? How do we make that happen?
Well, the other thing is the stepmom has the opportunity. She was not a member of the divorce party, right? She was neither the ex-wife or the husband who has much deeper injury from what was incredibly stressful. If she really wants to lead, she can lead and put her feelings aside to the ex-wife and really create something moment by moment a little better for the boys. And I just have a really hard time believing that wouldn't eventually have an impact on all of their relationship. As you say that, I have such ownership of the throwing under the bus loyalty challenge starting from that period and carrying that with me. Like I probably have still done that as an adult in certain circumstances because it was so ingrained in me.
But you're right, that's a survival instinct. I need to be connected to the person I'm with because that's the person right now who I'm dependent upon. And I think oftentimes the more conflicted the relationship is, the more that kids do that because it feels so tenuous to them. So we'll be right back after this short break. So Robin, I bet you're getting geared up for the holidays.
You know I love the holidays.
I know you do. I know you love decorating. Your house always looks so beautiful. How about gift giving?
I'm getting my grandmother the skylight frame, and I have been wanting to give this to her for months, and I'm so excited.
It's an easy gift to give, and it's all about connection, really.
So the skylight frame is this very genius use of technology. It's a beautiful black frame with a white mat, very classic looking. However, it's connected to a Wi-Fi network, and you can send photos to your relative and they will get updated automatically. So this is an amazing gift if you have relatives who are not with phones. For example, my 98-year-old grandmother. I'm so excited to share photos of our family with her in real time. I think this is such a genius invention.
I'm going to get one for my parents as well. The thing that's great about it is that all of the family members can send photos to this one frame. It's a great way to keep large networks of families in touch.
You can choose two different sizes. There's a 10-inch size and a larger 15-inch size frame. And if you don't love your skylight, they'll offer you a full refund.
You can get $15 off your purchase of a skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com and enter the code Flusterclux.
To get $15 off your purchase of a skylight frame, just go to skylightframe.com and enter the code Flusterclux, and that's SKYLIGHT frame, FRAME.com. Promo code is Flusterclux. Lynn, I know you know this about me. I'm obsessed with gut health.
Well, we all should pay attention to that. I've been fascinated by the amount of research coming out. Our gut is such a key part of our entire well-being.
I think it's the most exciting area of healthcare to watch over the next few decades, too.
Yeah, I mean, there's always new stuff coming out. Our microbiome holds so many data points about our health. We should be nourishing it. But I want a product that's backed by research, which is why Ritual makes sense for me.
Well, Ritual's Symbiotic Plus contains 2 of the world's most studied strains, with over 350 publications of human clinical trials. I mean, that's research.
Yeah, that's research. That's what I'm talking about. They're science-backed. They're research stacked, especially when stacked up against the leading direct-to-consumer and top-selling probiotics on the market.
But it's not just a probiotic. It's a 3-in-1 with clinically studied prebiotics, probiotics, and a postbiotic to support a balanced gut microbiome.
What's also cool about this, one of the reasons I like it, is that no refrigeration is needed for this minty capsule. And so for the two of us, we travel quite a bit. So not having to refrigerate the product is really important to both of us.
Absolutely. Symbiotic Plus and Ritual are here to celebrate, not hide your insides. There's no more shame in your gut game. That's why Ritual is offering our listeners 10% off during your first 3 months. Visit ritual.com/fluster to start Ritual or add Symbiotic Plus to your subscription today.
Okay, we're back.
So, Lynn, here's a listener question. And she writes, I'm dreading the holidays with my 2 kids at home for 2 weeks. My 17-year-old son really hates his 13-year-old sister right now, and any family time is awful. My daughter has caused a huge amount of upset, drama, and fear recently as a result of her mental health. She took an overdose in September, and her brother is very angry at her for all the anxiety and disruption she has caused the family as a result. She has frequent meltdowns. We have no other family around us, and we will be totally alone for the holidays, just the 4 of us. How do I keep the home calm and peaceful and enjoy Christmas with all this stress and upset? How do we do things as a family without World War III breaking out? Help.
Oh, so this is a really tough situation if everything else in the world were going fabulously. So, Mom, I am empathizing with you that you've got a daughter who's really struggling and you've got a teenage son who's trying to figure out how to manage all that. And then you as a parent are sort of feeling like you're in between all of this and you're feeling so responsible. So there are a few thoughts that I have. One is that when I hear in the question that you say, how do I keep the home calm and peaceful and enjoy Christmas with all this stress and upset? I think that you're setting the bar really high, that if you think your goal is to keep things calm and peaceful. And I'm wondering if you can come up with another criteria that you are going to help everybody get through this in a way in which there is as little hurt and emotional destruction as possible. Now, that's setting the bar lower, but I think even if you can just say to yourself, my goal is to get through this in a way where we are not experiencing a crisis, where we're able to coexist, where we're able to have some moments of hanging out and doing Christmas family things, I think that's going to feel far less stressful to you than saying your job is to keep things calm and peaceful. So that's the first thing, because that's an awful lot to ask of you. The other thing, too, really is okay. You say the 4 of us. So that means that I'm assuming that's 2 parents and 2 kids. It's really okay for you to divide and conquer during this. You guys don't have to be a foursome altogether. And it may be an opportunity for one parent to go and do things with one child and the other parent to go and do things with the other child. So this idea that the 4 of you have to be a unit for these 2 weeks, I think is also setting the bar really high. It is okay for people to spend time alone during this. And so if your daughter wants to go off and do something, be off in her room for a while, if your son wants to go off and be by himself, allow that to happen too, so that you can come together as a family and then you can have breaks too. You can have some privacy. So time alone is really, really okay. And it actually is probably pretty important. The other thing that I would do is that I would talk to your kids about this beforehand. And it may be helpful to talk to them individually with your 13-year-old and then sit down with your 17-year-old. And if you feel like you can do it together, that's okay too. But again, it's okay to do it separately. And to say, I know we've been through so much. This has been really, really hard. And as we're going into this, holiday and we're going to be together for break. Let's just talk very openly about how challenging this might be. And let's think about what I can do to help you and maybe what you can do to help us, right? So that it's not feeling like you're totally focusing on the 13-year-old and that she's the one who's the problem, because that often happens in families. So talk to her about what she thinks might be helpful and write those things down. And I would have the same conversation with your 17-year-old. There has got to be a lot of empathy and a lot of validating how tricky this feels. And it really is okay for you to say, let's figure out how to get through this. Let's talk about what might help. I think it's really important to just talk about it very openly. And then the last thing I'm going to say, and this is not something that you can do right now, but if you haven't taken advantage of a really good family therapist, I would highly recommend that. And what a lot of people don't know is that there are people who do individual therapy. There are people who, work with couples and that kind of stuff. But there are people who really specialize in working with families. In your training, you can get your license in what's called marriage and family therapy. So somebody is referred to as an MFT. And if you haven't done that yet, and if you haven't looked for that as a resource going forward, that may be something you don't know about, but it would be something that sounds like it would be really, really important, because the language that you're using to talk about this problem is so powerful. There's chaos, there's crisis, there's drama, there's hatred. A really good family therapist would be able to sort of help you guys navigate how you heal from what's been going on through all of this.
When I hear your advice and I sort of imagine what it's like to be in the room with her two children, her 17-year-old and her 13-year-old, individual moments of connection can be very powerful and the most realistic.
Yeah, because you can imagine, right? So mom goes into this and she thinks, all right, I want us all to have a Christmas brunch where we're all sitting together and we're opening our presents and we're feeling very connected, right? And of course, this mom, because all of these pictures of families getting along and everything going swell are all around us right now, she's probably feeling very pressured to make that happen, and also feeling pretty anxious going into this that, oh my gosh, I don't want things to go badly. I have to make them go well. The other thing too is moments of connection can happen very spontaneously, and they can also be around things that you don't really expect. Like there might be a moment of connection that we see where everybody's standing around the piano and somebody's playing Christmas carols and you're singing, right? And everybody's like, oh, right, okay. I bet that's not going to happen.
Right. The real connection happens when you're folding laundry.
Yes.
And starting to laugh about something.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Those spontaneous moments of connection, like you say, folding laundry or after dinner, or you're watching a show. The thing about connection and the thing about kids that are struggling, particularly teenagers, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, when we ask teenagers what they're looking for from their parents, they want you to keep trying. They want to have moments of connection that are small, right? They don't want to stand around the piano and sing Christmas carols. But say you're going out to do something, just keep asking. And it's really okay if they say, no, I don't want to do that. The cool thing about it is that they notice that you asked. And that's something I think that parents don't realize with teenagers. Is that if you say, hey, I'm going to run to the store. Do you want to come with me? Or do you need me to pick anything up for you? They may say, no, I don't want to come. But they know that you just asked for their company. And sometimes that is the best that we can do in the moment. And that kind of reaching out and saying, I hear you. I know you're here. I'm asking for your company can really make a difference. So think about that, and we'll be right back. Robin, you know what I love about our listeners?
What's that?
They are so engaged. I mean, we've got a great group on Facebook. We get questions all the time. These are a group of listeners that are just really thinking about things. They're really trying to do the best for their families. These are people who are really paying attention. They're really trying to make things better. They're looking for answers. So if you have a company and you're thinking, gosh, I would like to advertise in a podcast that has really engaged listeners. I would like to advertise in a podcast that has customers that are looking for solutions, that are looking for things to make their lives better. I think we're a really good fit.
If you're trying to make a family's life better or a parent's life better, we've got your audience. So let us know and sponsor your company on Flusterclux. Go to flusterclux.com under Work With Us, and you'll get all the information that you need to advertise your business. Hey everybody, this is Robin at Flusterclux. When Lynn and I are not having a great time recording our podcast on the weekends, I have a day job. I have a travel magazine for families. So if you're thinking about a 2023 family vacation, don't plan anything without reading our guides to the best Disney hotels, the best way to get a Disney guide for less, and everything you need to know about booking a Disney cruise. Lux Recess has been since 2014 the go-to place for parents to read about luxury travel with honest reviews written for parents by parents. Check it out. The links are in the show notes for our best guides to Florida travel for your spring break in 2023. That's luxrecess.com, luxrecess.com.
Okay, so now back to the show.
If a parent wants to connect with a teen who's not that interested in connecting at the moment, is there the right way or the wrong way to ask for a hug? Like, is it wrong to say, I really need a hug as a parent? Because then it's like, I need you to caretake for me and give me a hug. Or do you need to say, can I offer you a hug? Like, can you put your own needs for physical connection in that?
Yeah, I think I would probably stay away from the word need, right? Like I really need a hug right now, because then that does up the ante. And you could say like, oh, I would love a hug from you right now. The other thing too, though, that can work well, particularly with teenagers that are feeling, that they're sort of prickly for whatever reason, is small, walk by, rub them on the back, give them a little squeeze on the shoulder. And lots of times when people are angry, it's sort of like they're giving off this energy of stay away, stay away, stay away. And it really is okay for you to sort of pierce that force field with a little bit of physical affection. And, some families are not hugging families. Some families don't do that, but it really is okay in most families to walk by and just sort of rub your son on his back or tousle his hair a little bit. And you could say, can I give you a hug right now? Or who's up for a hug or something like that. But really looking for that little spontaneous physical connection is really nice too. One of the things just to pay attention to also is lots of times kids will throw something out and that they're interested in. And it may not be something that you're interested in, but ask a follow-up question to it. Have a conversation. It may not be a long, in-depth 10-minute conversation. But if they say like, oh, did you hear that blah, 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 or I saw that so-and-so did blah, 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 listen for those moments to just say, well, tell me more about that. Or, gosh, that's kind of weird. Or I had no idea. So look for those moments to spontaneously connect. It's a lot less pressure than saying we need to have this holiday vacation where things are calm and peaceful. We need to have this holiday vacation where we are going to look for moments of connection and find them. And I would just talk about it ahead of time. I would lay it out on the table. This has been a rough go for us. I know there's a lot of tension. And don't say, I know there's a lot of tension and I just want the holidays to be calm and peaceful. Say, I know there's been a lot of tension. So let's find small ways for us to connect.
Yeah, when you said that, it made me think also some family cultures try and sweep the hard stuff under the rug. If you don't acknowledge that you all are having that hard time, it will make it harder, right? Like trying to put a rosy picture on this is ultimately going to just, especially for teenagers, I always feel like teenagers' anger comes from their own bullshit detectors, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so if you're around a teen and the family has been through a lot, like you all clearly have, if you're denying that in any way or like not acknowledging that truth, they're just gonna, they're gonna give it to you.
Yep, it's that validation. Of course you feel that way. There's this great New Yorker cartoon from years and years ago where a husband and wife are sitting in the living room and he's reading a book and she's looking at the newspaper, and there's an oriental rug, and there's just this huge pile. It's like there's an elephant under the carpet, and the message is they've just been sitting here sweeping things under the rug. So thinking about that and just being open about it and just acknowledging it. Just saying this is going to be tricky. We know that things feel really intense right now, and we're going to be all together. So let's figure that out.
So the holiday week is upon us, and we just thought we would continue to share some of the things that we're doing to celebrate Christmas. We have family all over the world.
Yes.
And we decided to have our first annual 'Twas the Night Before Christmas reading. And we divided up the poem among all of the family. There are 25 of us around the globe, and I'm editing that film right now. And so that's a really fun way to have the little cousins participate in something and, have family that you don't typically see very often participate. And I think that it's a really nice way to, not that we want to commemorate 2020 so much, but it's just a reminder that we are all part of a bigger family.
Just to be clear, so Robin came up with this idea, and it really is so great. We all got a picture of the poem. Every family member has a few lines to say, and then we all have to make our individual videos, and then Robin's putting them all together as a movie. And none of us know what the other people are doing, so it's going to be a big surprise. So much fun. So I was out snowshoeing this morning with my best pal in the blue sky, and it was incredibly beautiful. I actually hadn't been out of the house, and she told me about this thing that they're doing for the grandmother in the family. And I forget what it's called. I can get the exact name from her, but there's this frame. It's like a digital frame, but it's separate from your computer. It's, it looks like a picture frame. You plug it in and everybody gets the link to it. And you just send your Christmas pictures to the link during the day. So you take a picture, you send it to Nana's frame, and she is there and just sitting and watching these pictures come in real time of people celebrating. And it creates this slideshow that she can enjoy watching her grandchildren and people all around. And so she feels like she's a part of the celebration. I thought that was such a great idea.
That is a great idea. I know the frame you're talking about.
Yeah, you do?
I'll try and put a link to it in the show notes because it definitely makes sense.
I think maybe we're onto something.
So join the Facebook group so that you can ask Lynn your question on an upcoming episode.
And thanks for joining us for another episode of Flusterclux. Bye, Robin.
Bye, Lynn.
If you like this show, there's a decent chance you'll also enjoy the Shameless Mom Academy. Hi, I'm Sarah Dean, the founder and host of the Shameless Mom Academy. The Shameless Mom Academy is a podcast for moms that centers moms more than it centers your kids. I'm not going to teach you how to make baby food or how to make your 3-year-old or 13-year-old stop having tantrums. Instead, I'm going to bring you back to yourself. For the last 20 years, I've been helping moms through growth and transformation. Inside the Shameless Mom Academy, I help you identify who you are and who you are becoming. Look, motherhood is hard. It brought me to my knees many times and sometimes still does. Returning to who I am and who I am becoming allows me to decide how to show up in all those sticky motherhood moments, but also in all my other relationships and in all the ways I show up in my various communities. So come check out the Shameless Mom Academy wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm willing to bet you'll leave feeling a little inspired and maybe even completely fired up. And you'll probably laugh a few times because I promise we never take ourselves too seriously over here. With 700 episodes to choose from, you're likely going to find something that sparks and speaks to you inside the Shameless Mom Academy.